If you've used a popular app on your phone today, there's a really good chance it was powered by a language you might not even have heard of. It's a language that had a seriously rocky start, faced major criticism, and pretty much had to completely reinvent itself just to survive. So today, we're going to dive into the surprising story of Dart.
So what even is Dart? Well, at its core, it's a programming language that came out of Google. It was designed from the ground up to be easy for developers to pick up, but also powerful enough to build these really slick, high-performance apps that can run on, well, just about any device you can think of. It's packed with all sorts of features that just make a developer's life easier.
But here's the thing, that's the real story. Dart was no overnight success, not even close. Its journey from being this really controversial project to a multi-platform powerhouse is a fantastic lesson in adaptation. So the question is, how on earth did it pull off such an incredible turnaround?
To really get where Dart is today, we have to go all the way back to its very public and very challenging origins. Okay, so when Dart first showed up on the scene, its mission was crazy ambitious. The big idea was to build a special engine, a virtual machine, or VM, and bake it directly into the Google Chrome browser. The whole goal was to offer a faster, more structured alternative to JavaScript, which is, the language that has traditionally powered the web.
But this idea did not go over well, at all. The web developer community pushed back, and they pushed back hard. They argued that sticking a special Google-only engine in one browser would just fracture the internet. You'd end up with a Chrome web and then everybody else's web, which would force developers to build everything twice. This criticism was a huge, huge turning point. Google listened, and in 2015, they made a massive pivot.
And that pivotal moment came right there in 2015. After that initial blowback, the project had to make a choice. The new plan? Instead of trying to replace JavaScript, Dart would compile to it. And what that meant was that any code written in Dart could now run in any browser. It was a brilliant move from competition to compatibility. And later releases, like Dart 2.0 and 3.0, they just doubled down on making the language even safer and more powerful for developers.
That strategic pivot, it totally unlocked Dart's true superpower, its incredible flexibility. Suddenly, it became a language that wasn't tied to any single platform.
And Dart pulls this off by being a true chameleon. For the web, it just transforms Dart code into standard JavaScript so it works everywhere, no problem. But for mobile and desktop apps, it compiles directly into native machine code. We're talking the raw language of the processor for maximum speed. And there's even a third mode, just for developers, that unlocks some absolutely incredible productivity features.
Let's break that down with an analogy. So, when you're ready to actually release your app to the world, you use ahead of time, or AOT, compilation. Think of it like getting an entire book translated before you publish it. Yeah, it takes more time up front, but the result is a perfectly optimized app that starts up instantly and just runs incredibly fast. But while you're developing the app, you use just-in-time or JIT compilation. This is more like having a live interpreter translating phrases as you speak. It lets you see your code changes almost instantly, which leads to a total game-changing feature we'll get to in a sec.
Now, having this amazing compilation tech is one thing, but a language really needs a reason to exist. It needs a killer app. And for Dart, that killer app was a framework called Flutter.
And Flutter, well, it came with one single transformative promise.
One code base, every single screen. That's the whole pitch. You write your app once using Dart, and then Flutter takes that code and turns it into a beautiful, high-performance, native application for every platform you can imagine. For developers and companies, this was basically the holy grail.
So what Flutter did, essentially, was take all of Dart's technical power and give it a super clear purpose. It offered developers a complete toolkit to build for every platform at once, getting rid of the massive cost and headache of managing separate code for iOS, Android, the web, and so on. This was the partnership that shot Dart right into the mainstream.
But it's not just about Flutter. The Dart language itself has evolved to include features that developers absolutely love, making the whole experience of writing code safer and way more productive.
First up is sound null safety. This is huge. It basically eliminates one of the most common reasons apps crash, something called a null pointer error. Think of it like this. It's like trying to read a page from a book that doesn't even exist. Dart prevents that from happening by default. It guarantees a value is always there, unless a developer specifically says, hey, this one might not be. It's an incredibly powerful safety net built right in.
Next is how Dart handles doing multiple things at once, or concurrency. It uses this concept called isolates. The best way to think about them is like independent workers on an assembly line who never, ever share their tools. Instead of touching the same piece of memory, which can cause chaos, they just pass messages back and forth. This simple rule prevents a whole category of really complex bugs, making it much safer to build fast, responsive apps.
And hey, remember that just-in-time compiler we talked about? Well, it enables this magical feature called hot reload. As a developer, you can literally change your code, hit save, and see that change show up in your running app in less than a second, without having to restart anything. It's not just convenient, it fundamentally changes the speed at which you can build and experiment. It's amazing.
So here's the crucial takeaway. Dart's story isn't about having a perfect launch. It's about a project that actually listened to some fierce criticism, made a really courageous pivot, and then focused relentlessly on solving a huge, real-world problem for developers. How do you build great apps for every platform without all the pain of doing it over and over again?
I mean, it's an incredible transformation from a would-be JavaScript competitor into the engine of a truly cross-platform world. And it leaves us with a really compelling question. In an industry that is constantly changing, is the most successful technology the one that tries to dictate the future, or the one that's brave enough to adapt to it?